I paid $1 million to save their mother, then they called me too poor for their daughter. I'm Michael Patterson, and 3 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I secretly paid $963,000 to save someone's life. Someone whose family would later tell me I wasn't good enough for their daughter. They had no idea they were insulting their own savior. But when they publicly humiliated me at my son's engagement party, I decided it was time they learned the truth. I stayed quiet, let them finish their little speech about people like me. Then I showed them exactly who people like me really are. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Because this story about respect, family, and hidden heroes might change how you treat strangers forever. It started when my son Tyler brought home his fiancée, Dr. Emma Richardson. Beautiful girl, brilliant surgeon, came from what they called good medical family money. But her parents, that's where things got complicated. Let me set the scene for you. My son Tyler works as a hospital administrator at St. Mary's in Rochester, Minnesota. Makes good money, lives in a nice apartment, drives a decent car. Normal 28-year-old success story. But when he started dating Emma, something changed. "Dad," he said one evening in March, sitting in my modest living room, "I need to ask you something. When you meet Emma's parents, could you maybe not mention what you do for work?" I looked up from my newspaper. I was wearing my usual after-work clothes, old jeans, a worn flannel shirt. My hands still had traces of motor oil under the nails. "What exactly do you want me to tell them?" Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "Just say you work at the hospital, which is true. You don't have to specify that you're in maintenance. See, I've been working as a maintenance technician at St. Mary's Hospital for the past 3 years. Navy blue Dickies coveralls, my name patch, toolbox in the back of my 2018 Ford F-150. The truck's got a dented bumper and probably 200,000 miles on it." "Tyler, what did you tell Emma about me?" His face went red. "I told her you work in the medical field." "The medical field?" "Dad, her parents are Dr. Charles Richardson. He's head of cardiology, and her mom, Victoria, used to be an ICU nurse before she married up. They're particular about things." "Particular. That's one way to put it. And you're ashamed of me." "I'm not ashamed. I want this to work out, Dad. Emma's amazing, and her family has connections. Real connections. They could help my career." I folded my newspaper. "Son, I've been working with my hands my whole life. There's no shame in honest work. I know that, but they don't see it that way." That's when I made my decision. Not to come clean about who I really was, that would come later, but to test these people, to see exactly what kind of character my son was marrying into. "All right," I said. "I'll play along. For now." What Tyler didn't know, what nobody knew, was that my maintenance job was a choice, not a necessity. I'd been wealthy for years, genuinely wealthy. But after selling my company, I decided I needed to stay grounded. Working with my hands, fixing things, helping people, it kept me connected to reality. My house? A modest 1,500 square foot ranch I bought for $285,000. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I could have bought 10 houses that size without blinking. But Tyler was embarrassed. His own father. The first time I met Emma, she was lovely. Genuinely sweet, smart, respectful. We talked about her residency, her goals, her passion for helping people. She didn't once ask what I did for work, and Tyler never volunteered the information. But when she mentioned her parents wanting to meet me, I saw the panic in Tyler's eyes. "They're having us over for dinner Sunday," Emma said. "They're so excited to meet Tyler's father." After she left, Tyler grabbed my arm. "Dad, please, just for one evening. Let them assume whatever they want to assume." "And what will they assume?" "That you're, successful." I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had I raised someone who thought success could only be measured one way? "I'll be myself, Tyler. If that's not good enough for them, then maybe you should reconsider this family you're so eager to join." But I was curious now. Just how bad could these people be? The Richardson house sat on 2 acres in the historic district of Rochester. $1,800,000 of Victorian-era elegance, with a circular driveway, manicured gardens, and the kind of front door that probably cost more than most people's cars. I pulled up in my F-150, the engine making that slight rattling sound it had developed around mile 190. Through the bay windows, I could see crystal chandeliers and what looked like original hardwood floors. Emma answered the door, beaming. "Mr. Patterson, come in, come in. Mom and Dad are so excited to meet you." The foyer had marble floors that probably cost $50,000. Original oil paintings lined the hallway. I caught a glimpse of medical diplomas covering one wall. Harvard Medical School, Mayo Clinic fellowships, board certifications. "Dad," Tyler whispered as we walked in, "remember what we talked about?" What we talked about. Like I was some embarrassing secret he had to manage. Dr. Charles Richardson emerged from what looked like a home office. Tall, silver-haired, expensive suit even at home. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. "Michael, welcome, welcome. Tyler's told us so much about you." Behind him came Victoria Richardson, once beautiful, now preserved in that particular way wealthy women maintain themselves. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, diamond earrings that caught the light. "Mr. Patterson," she said, offering a hand like she expected me to kiss it. "How lovely to finally meet you." We moved to their living room, leather furniture, Persian rugs, a grand piano nobody probably played. Family photos covered the mantelpiece, including several of a woman I didn't recognize, an older woman with kind eyes and Emma's smile. "That's my mother," Emma said, noticing my gaze. "Margaret Richardson. We called her Maggie. She passed away last year." "I'm sorry for your loss," I said. Victoria's expression shifted slightly. "Mother had a long battle with cancer. Very difficult time for our family." Something flickered across Charles's face. "Expensive time, too, even with insurance, the bills." He shook his head. "But let's not dwell on sad things. Michael, Tyler tells us you work in the medical field." Here it was. The moment of truth. "I work at St. Mary S.," I said simply. "Wonderful. In what capacity?" Tyler jumped in quickly. "Dad's in operations." "Operations. Technical truth, I suppose. I did operate things. Just happened to be floor waxers and boiler systems." "Operations." Charles nodded approvingly. "Management?" I felt Tyler's eyes boring into me. His entire future happiness apparently depended on how I answered this question. "I keep things running," I said. "Excellent, excellent. The administrative side of medicine is so crucial. People don't realize how much planning goes into healthcare delivery." I could see Tyler relaxing. His father wasn't going to embarrass him. His father was going to play along with this charade. But sitting there, watching my son lie by omission, watching these people make assumptions based on their own prejudices, I realized what I stood to lose. Not their approval. I didn't need that. I stood to lose my son's respect for himself, his willingness to stand up for the people he loved, his understanding that worth isn't measured by diplomas or bank accounts. Tyler was choosing their approval over his own integrity, and I was enabling it. "Tell me about your family, Michael," Victoria said. "Background, education, where you came from." "I'm from small-town Minnesota," I said. "Worked my way up. Self-made man." "How admirable," she said in a tone that suggested it wasn't admirable at all. "And your education?" "Life experience, mostly." I watched her exchange a glance with Charles, the kind of look that said, "Exactly what we thought." "Well," Charles said carefully, "not everyone needs formal education to succeed in operations." The condescension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. But Tyler was smiling, grateful that his father was passing their little test. That's when I saw the photograph again. Maggie Richardson, smiling from the mantelpiece. The woman whose life had been saved by an anonymous donor who paid $963,000 in medical bills. The woman whose family was currently judging that same anonymous donor as beneath their station. I made my decision right there. This charade was going to end, but not tonight. Tonight I was going to let them dig their hole a little deeper. "Dinner's ready," Emma announced cheerfully, unaware that her father and mother had just revealed exactly who they really were, and I was about to show them exactly who I really was. The dining room could have been featured in Architectural Digest. Crystal chandelier, mahogany table that seated 12, china that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. I counted 3 different forks at my place setting. Charles sat at the head of the table like a king holding court. Victoria orchestrated the meal service with the precision of a military operation. Emma and Tyler seemed relaxed, happy. They had no idea what was coming. "So, Michael," Charles began as we started on what looked like a $30 appetizer, Operations at St. Mary S., that's quite a responsibility. Someone has to do it, I said, cutting into my food. Indeed. And how long have you been in operations? 3 years now. Career change? Tyler shot me a warning look. We were entering dangerous territory. You could say that. Victoria leaned forward. What did you do before? Business. What kind of business? Charles pressed. Technology. The questions came faster now, like a medical examination. Charles had that doctor's way of probing for information, not letting things go. Technology business. How interesting.
Software? Hardware? Medical devices? Medical devices. Victoria's eyebrows rose. Oh my, were you successful? I did all right. Define all right, Charles said with a laugh that wasn't entirely friendly. Tyler jumped in. Dad's being modest. He did very well. Well enough to send Tyler to college, I said. Well enough to pay for his education without debt. That got their attention. Charles and Victoria exchanged another one of those looks. Full tuition? Victoria asked. Full ride. Books, room, board, everything. Impressive, Charles said, and for the first time he sounded like he meant it. What was the name of your company? MedTech Innovations. I watched Charles's face carefully. If he recognized the name, he didn't show it. But Victoria's expression shifted slightly, like she was trying to remember something. MedTech Innovations, Charles repeated. Can't say I'm familiar with it. What kind of devices did you develop? Cardiac equipment mostly. Cardiac? Charles straightened up. This was his field. What specifically? Heart valves, replacement technology. Now I had his full attention. Victoria was staring at me intently, that same expression of someone trying to place a face. Heart valve technology is incredibly sophisticated, Charles said. The engineering alone requires extensive knowledge of both cardiology and biomedical engineering. Where did you study? Self-taught mostly. Self-taught. The skepticism was clear in his voice. Heart valve technology, self-taught. Dad's brilliant with mechanical things, Tyler said quickly. Always has been. I'm sure he is, Charles said in a tone that suggested he wasn't sure at all. But heart valve technology, that's not something you pick up as a hobby, Michael. We're talking about devices that keep people alive. FDA regulations, biocompatibility testing, clinical trials. I'm aware of the requirements. Are you? Because I've been working with cardiac patients for 25 years, and I've never met a self-taught medical device inventor. The room fell silent. Emma looked uncomfortable. Tyler looked mortified. Maybe we could talk about something else, Emma suggested. No, Charles continued. I'm genuinely curious. What was your role at MedTech Innovations exactly? Sales, marketing, operations? I founded it. You founded a medical device company, without formal training. That's right. And what happened to this company? I sold it. Victoria was still staring at me. You look familiar, she said suddenly. Have we met before? I don't think so. No, I'm sure we have. Your face. I know you from somewhere. Tyler was practically vibrating with anxiety. His carefully constructed fiction was crumbling. Mom, Emma said gently, maybe you're thinking of someone else. No, Victoria insisted. I never forget a face. Michael, are you sure we haven't met? Maybe at the hospital? In the cardiac wing? Charles was watching this exchange with growing interest. Victoria, what are you thinking? I'm thinking our Mr. Patterson isn't being entirely honest about his operations role. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Tyler's face had gone pale. What exactly are you suggesting? I asked quietly. I'm suggesting, Victoria said, her voice taking on an edge, that perhaps your operations position isn't quite as prestigious as Tyler led us to believe. Tyler started to speak, but I held up a hand. And what would you say if it wasn't prestigious? Charles leaned back in his chair. Well, that would depend on what you actually do, wouldn't it? Would it matter? Of course it matters, Victoria said sharply. Emma's a doctor. She has a reputation to maintain. We have a reputation to maintain. If Tyler's father is, well, if he's not what he presented himself to be. What your mother is trying to say, Charles interjected smoothly, is that we need to know who we're welcoming into our family. And if you don't approve, then we'll deal with that when we come to it, Victoria said. Tyler finally found his voice. Mr. and Mrs. Richardson, my father is a good man. Whatever he does for work. Tyler, Charles interrupted, we appreciate your loyalty, but this isn't about being good. This is about being appropriate. Appropriate. There was that word again. I set down my fork and looked around the table. At Tyler, desperate to salvage his relationship. At Emma, confused and uncomfortable. At Charles and Victoria, sitting in judgment like they had the right. Like they had any idea who they were really talking to. Well, I said quietly, this has been educational. I'm sorry, Charles said. Learning what kind of people you really are. Learning what my son thinks is acceptable behavior. I stood up from the table. Thank you for dinner.
It's been illuminating.
Tyler caught up with me in the driveway as I was getting into my truck. Dad, wait, please. I turned around. In the porch light, my son looked younger than his 28 years, scared. What do you want me to say, Tyler? Just don't give up on this, on Emma. She's not like them. Emma seems lovely, but she comes with them attached. Dad, if you could just tell them what you really do, what I really do. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I fix things, Tyler. I maintain systems that keep people safe. I make sure hospitals run smoothly so doctors can save lives. There's nothing wrong with what I really do. That's not what I meant. I know exactly what you meant. Tyler ran his hands through his hair. They just need time to get to know you. Son, those people didn't want to get to know me. They wanted to categorize me, put me in a box they could understand and judge. Give them another chance. I studied my son's face.
Why is their approval so important to you?
Because I love Emma. And they have influence, connections. Charles is on the board of 3 hospitals. Victoria's family donates millions to medical research. If I marry Emma, doors open, opportunities. At what cost? Tyler didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quiet. I just want to be successful, Dad. I want to matter. My heart broke a little. Tyler, you already matter. You don't need their approval to validate your worth. Easy for you to say. You're not the one trying to build a career in hospital administration. I almost told him then. Almost explained that career success had very little to do with who you knew and everything to do with who you were. Almost revealed that I knew more about hospital administration than Charles Richardson would ever dream. Instead, I said, your grandmother would be disappointed. What? Your mother's mother. My wife's mother.
She cleaned houses for 40 years to help pay for your mother's nursing school. Never complained, never asked for anything, never felt ashamed of honest work. She'd be disappointed to see her grandson trading his integrity for connections. Tyler's face flushed. That's not what I'm doing. Isn't it? Before he could answer, Emma appeared in the doorway. Tyler, is everything okay? Fine, Tyler called back. Dad was just leaving. I climbed into my truck and started the engine. Through the bay window, I could see Charles and Victoria still sitting at their dining table, probably dissecting every word of our conversation. As I drove home, I thought about Maggie Richardson, the photograph on their mantelpiece, the woman whose family was sitting in that expensive house, eating expensive food, because an anonymous donor had paid nearly $1 million to keep her alive for her final months. They had no idea. No idea that the man they'd just dismissed as inappropriate had been their literal savior. When I got home, I went to my home office. A small room that Tyler had probably never noticed was filled with medical journals, patent documentation, and business awards. I pulled out a manila folder marked Anonymous Donations, Richardson, Margaret. $963,000. 47 separate payments to Mayo Clinic, spread over 8 months. Chemotherapy, radiation, experimental treatments, private room, round-the-clock nursing care. Every bill paid in full, immediately, no questions asked. The thank you letter from the hospital was there too. This generous anonymous donation allowed Mrs. Richardson to receive the highest standard of care during her final months. Her family's gratitude cannot be measured. Her family's gratitude. I opened my laptop and did something I hadn't done in months. I looked up Charles Richardson's practice. Prestigious cardiology group, excellent reputation, high-end patient base. According to their website, Dr. Richardson specialized in innovative cardiac care for discerning patients. Innovative cardiac care. I wondered if he knew that the heart valve technology he probably used every day came from patents I held.
If he realized that every successful valve replacement in his practice put money in my pocket. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "I'm sorry about tonight. Can we try again?" I typed back, "Of course, but next time we do it my way." What does that mean? I stared at the question for a long time before responding. It means no more lies, no more pretending, no more being ashamed of who we are. Dad, I'm not ashamed. Tyler, you introduced me as working in operations instead of maintenance. You coached me on what to say. You apologized for my truck, my clothes, my lack of formal education. If that's not shame, what is it? He didn't respond. I put the phone down and looked at Maggie Richardson's medical files one more time. She'd been 73 when she was diagnosed. Terminal cancer, given 6 months to live. The anonymous donation had bought her another 8 months with her family. 8 months to see Emma graduate medical school. 8 months to watch Tyler and Emma fall in love. 8 months that Charles and Victoria Richardson apparently thought entitled them to judge the man who'd made it possible. Well, they wanted to know who I really was. Soon enough, they were going to find out. The wedding planning meeting was Victoria's idea. "We should all be on the same page," she'd said when Emma called to invite me. "The Richardson family has certain traditions." It was being held at the Kaler Grand Hotel, Rochester's premier wedding venue. $85,000 for the reception package, according to Emma. The kind of place where Charles and Victoria could display their social status while discussing their daughter's future. I arrived wearing my best clothes, clean jeans, a button-down shirt I'd ironed myself, and work boots I'd polished that morning. My truck looked out of place among the Mercedes and BMWs in the parking lot. The meeting was in a private dining room overlooking the hotel's gardens. Victoria had invited what seemed like half of Rochester's medical community. Dr. Jennifer Walsh from pediatrics, Dr. Robert Stevens from surgery, Dr. Sarah Mitchell from hospital administration. All colleagues, all friends of the Richardson family, all witnesses to what was about to happen. "Michael," Victoria called out as I entered, "come meet everyone. This is Tyler's father, the one I was telling you about." The one she was telling them about. I wondered what exactly she'd been saying. Emma was radiant, talking excitedly with the wedding planner about flowers and centerpieces. Tyler stood beside her, playing the proud fiancé, but I could see the tension in his shoulders when he spotted me. Charles approached with Dr. Stevens in tow. "Michael, I'd like you to meet Robert Stevens. He's chief of surgery at St. Mary S." Dr. Stevens extended his hand. "Nice to meet you, Michael. Charles tells me you work at the hospital, too." "That's right. What department? Here we go again." Tyler appeared at my elbow like magic. "Dad's in operations," Tyler said quickly. "Operations?" Dr. Stevens looked puzzled. "I don't think we've met. I'm usually involved in operational discussions, especially anything involving surgical services." Victoria materialized beside us, that predatory smile on her face. "Michael, why don't you tell Dr. Stevens exactly what your operational responsibilities entail?" The room had gone quiet. The wedding planner was still talking to Emma about table linens, but everyone else was listening. "I maintain hospital systems," I said simply. "Systems?" Dr. Stevens asked. "IT systems? Or physical systems, mechanical systems, whatever needs maintaining?" Dr. Stevens' expression shifted. You could see the moment he understood. "Oh," he said quietly. "Maintenance." The word dropped into the conversation like a stone into still water. Ripples of understanding spread around the room. "Maintenance," Victoria repeated, her voice carrying just enough volume for everyone to hear. "How interesting." Charles stepped closer. "Michael, when you said you worked in operations, I naturally assumed—" "You assumed wrong," I said. "Yes, apparently I did." Tyler's face had gone white. "There's nothing wrong with maintenance work." "Of course not," Victoria said smoothly. "Essential work. Very important. I'm just surprised that Tyler described it as operations." Dr. Mitchell, who'd been quiet until now, spoke up. "Wait, are you the Michael Patterson in building services? Navy coveralls, drives the blue Ford?" "That's me. I see you around the hospital all the time. You fixed the heat in my office last month. Glad it's working." The room was completely quiet now. Even Emma had stopped talking and was looking our way with a confused expression. Victoria's smile had turned razor sharp. "Well, this certainly changes things, doesn't it?" "Changes what?" I asked. "Our understanding of Tyler's background."
Charles nodded gravely. Victoria, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No, Victoria interrupted. I think our friends should hear this. After all, they'll be attending the wedding. They should understand what kind of family Emma is marrying into. Tyler started to speak, but Victoria held up her hand. Please, Tyler, let me finish. She turned to address the room. Everyone, I want to be completely transparent here.
We've discovered that Tyler's father isn't quite who we thought he was. Mom, Emma said urgently, what are you doing? I'm protecting you, sweetheart. I'm protecting our family's reputation. Victoria turned back to me. Michael, I'm sure you're a perfectly nice man. I'm sure you work very hard mopping floors and fixing toilets. That's enough, Tyler said. Is it? Because I haven't finished? Victoria's voice grew colder. You see, everyone, the Richardson family has spent generations building our reputation in this community. Charitable donations, medical service, social responsibility. We will not allow that reputation to be damaged by association with people who think lying about their station in life is acceptable. Dr. Stevens looked uncomfortable. Victoria, maybe this isn't the time. This is exactly the time, she snapped. Before any more damage is done. She turned back to me. Michael, you seem like a decent enough person, but you're a maintenance worker, a janitor. You have no education, no prospects, no understanding of what it means to be part of a family like ours. The silence in the room was deafening. And? I asked quietly. And I think it would be best for everyone if you removed yourself from this situation. Let Tyler find his own way without dragging our family down to your level. Emma gasped. Mother, Emma, you're a doctor. You have a future to think about. Do you really want to be associated with a family that thinks dishonesty is acceptable? That thinks maintenance work qualifies as operations? Tyler's face was burning red. Mrs. Richardson, you're way out of line. Am I? Or am I the only one willing to speak the truth here? Victoria addressed the room again. People like Michael Patterson are why healthcare costs are so high. Uneducated workers demanding benefits they haven't earned, taking jobs they're not qualified for, dragging down institutions that good families have spent lifetimes building. That's when my phone rang. The ringtone cut through the silence like a knife. I pulled out my phone and looked at the caller ID. Dr. Sarah Mitchell was standing 10 feet away from me. She was also calling my phone. I looked at her, then at the phone, then at Victoria Richardson. I should probably take this, I said. I answered the phone, putting it on speaker. Michael Patterson speaking. Mr. Patterson, this is Dr. Sarah Mitchell from St. Mary's Hospital Billing Department. I'm calling about the final anonymous donation payment for the Richardson family account. Dr. Mitchell was standing right there in the room, staring at me with wide eyes. She'd made the call without thinking, probably to discuss hospital business. Now she was watching her own voice come through my phone speaker. The room had gone dead silent. The Richardson account? I repeated loud enough for everyone to hear. Yes, sir. The anonymous donation account for Margaret Richardson's cancer treatment. We're ready to process the final payment of $57,000. This will bring your total anonymous donation to $963,000. Should I proceed with the wire transfer? Victoria Richardson's face had gone completely white. Charles was staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. Tyler looked confused. Dad, what's she talking about? I looked around the room at all the faces staring at me. Medical professionals who thought they knew exactly who I was. A family who just finished explaining why I wasn't good enough for them. Dr. Mitchell, I said into the phone, can you repeat the total amount of the anonymous donations to the Richardson account? $963,000, sir. Paid over 8 months during Mrs. Margaret Richardson's cancer treatment. The donations covered all costs not covered by insurance, including experimental treatments, private room charges, and round-the-clock nursing care. Emma's hand flew to her mouth. Grandma Maggie? That's correct, Dr. Mitchell's voice continued from the phone. The anonymous donations allowed Mrs. Richardson to receive the highest standard of care during her final months. Without these donations, the family would have faced significant financial hardship. Victoria was gripping the back of a chair. That's impossible. I ended the call and put my phone away. The real Dr. Mitchell, standing across the room, was staring at me with a mixture of shock and recognition. You, she whispered,
You're the anonymous donor. Charles found his voice first. This has to be some kind of mistake. No mistake, I said quietly. I paid for your mother-in-law's cancer treatment.
Every bill, every experimental therapy, every comfort measure that insurance wouldn't cover. Emma was crying now. But why? Why would you do that? Because she was dying, and you loved her, and no one should have to choose between financial ruin and saving someone they love. Tyler was staring at me. Dad, how did you even know about Maggie's cancer? I read the news story about her experimental treatment fundraiser. Your hospital posted it on their website. Local family faces bankruptcy trying to save grandmother's life. I called the next day. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. The anonymous donor who saved our family was you? The maintenance worker, I said. The janitor. The man who isn't good enough for your daughter. Dr. Stevens stepped forward. Michael, how did you have access to that kind of money? I reached into my wallet and pulled out a business card. Old, worn from being carried around. I handed it to him. MedTech Innovations, founded 1998. Sold to Johnson & Johnson in 2021 for $1.2 billion.
Dr. Stevens read the card aloud. Michael Patterson, Chief Executive Officer and Founder. Charles grabbed the card from Dr. Stevens' hands. This can't be real. Dr. Stevens, I said, what heart valve technology does your surgical team use for cardiac replacements?
Patterson Valve Series P180, he said automatically.
Then his eyes widened. Patterson valves. That's my technology, my patents. Every time you use one of my valves, I receive a licensing fee. The room erupted in whispers, medical professionals pulling out their phones, searching for information. Here, Dr. Walsh said, reading from her phone. Forbes article from 2021. Medical device pioneer. Sells heart valve company for $1.2 billion. Photo shows. She looked up at me. Shows you. Emma was still crying. You saved Grandma Maggie. You gave her 8 more months with us. 8 months she might not have had without aggressive treatment, I said. 8 months to see you graduate medical school. 8 months to meet Tyler. 8 months to know you were happy. Victoria's voice was shaking. Why didn't you tell us who you were? Because I wanted to see who you really were. Charles was reading something on his phone. Forbes 400 list. Michael Patterson, net worth estimated at $800 million. Known for anonymous charitable giving through the Patterson Medical Relief Foundation. 800 million, Victoria repeated. Tyler found his voice. Dad, you're a billionaire? Was a billionaire. Gave most of it away. But yes, I have enough money to buy this hotel. And your house. And your husband's practice. Twice over. I looked around the room at all the stunned faces. You want to know what I really do? I create medical technology that saves lives. I fund research that develops new treatments. I pay for families' medical bills when insurance companies abandon them. I work as a maintenance technician because I believe in honest work and staying humble. Victoria was gripping Charles's arm. We had no idea. You had no idea because you never bothered to find out who I really was. You saw coveralls and assumed ignorance. You saw a truck and assumed poverty. You saw calloused hands and assumed worthlessness. Emma wiped her eyes. Mr. Patterson, I'm so sorry. We owe you everything. You don't owe me anything, Emma. I didn't do it for gratitude. I did it because it was right. I turned to Victoria. But you do owe me something. What? An apology. Not to me. I don't need your approval. An apology to every honest worker you've ever looked down on. Every maintenance worker, every janitor, every person you've judged by their clothes instead of their character. Victoria's face was streaked with tears. I don't know what to say. Here's what you can say. I was wrong. Can you say that? She nodded, unable to speak. Out loud. I was wrong, she whispered. Louder. I was wrong, she said, her voice breaking. I was completely, horribly wrong. I looked at Charles. Doctor? Charles's voice was hoarse. I was wrong too. Completely wrong. About everything. Tyler was staring at me with a mixture of pride and shame. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have stood up for you. Yes, I said simply. You should have. The room remained silent for a long moment. 20-some medical professionals, wedding planners, and family members processing what they'd just witnessed. Dr. Mitchell, the real one standing in the room, was the first to speak. Mr. Patterson, I've processed charitable donations for 15 years. Your foundation has helped 847 families avoid medical bankruptcy. We've never met a donor who gave so much and asked for so little recognition."
"Recognition was never the point," I said. Emma wiped her tears and stepped forward. "Mr. Patterson, can I call you Michael? What you did for my grandmother—" "There are no words. There don't need to be words. What matters is that you had 8 more months with her. What matters is that she died surrounded by love instead of financial stress." Charles cleared his throat. "Michael, I need to ask, why maintenance work? With your wealth, your background, you could do anything." "I am doing what I want to do. I fix things that are broken. Sometimes that's boiler systems. Sometimes it's families facing impossible medical bills. Sometimes it's young doctors who think they understand the world." Victoria was still shaking. "How can we possibly make this right?" "You can start by understanding that worth isn't measured by bank accounts or degrees on the wall. The man who cleans your hospital floors might be the same man who designed the equipment that saves your patients." Tyler stepped closer. "Dad, I owe you an apology too. I was ashamed of honest work. I was more concerned with impressing people than defending my father." "Tyler, you're 28 years old. You're still figuring out who you want to be. But I hope this teaches you that integrity matters more than connections." Dr. Stevens was still staring at his phone. "Michael, according to this article, you've donated over $400 million to medical causes, anonymously. Money isn't useful if it's just sitting in accounts. There are families facing medical crises every day, people who've worked their whole lives and still can't afford to save someone they love." "But why anonymously?" Emma asked. "Because the moment people know where the money comes from, it changes the dynamic. Suddenly they're grateful to me instead of focused on their loved one. Suddenly it becomes about the donor instead of the patient." I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a saved document. "Victoria, would you like to know what your mother's final weeks were like?" She nodded, unable to speak. Private room overlooking the garden. Round-the-clock nursing care. Experimental immunotherapy that bought her 2 extra months. Pain management that kept her comfortable. Physical therapy that let her walk to Emma's graduation. Victoria was crying again. She talked about that graduation every day, said it was the proudest moment of her life. That moment was possible because anonymous donations meant your family could focus on love instead of money. That's why I give anonymously. That's why I work in maintenance. That's why I drive a truck and live in a modest house. Charles was looking at me with something approaching awe. You could buy hospitals. You could have buildings named after you. I could. But buildings with my name don't save lives. Anonymous donations do. Medical research does. Technology development does. Dr. Walsh spoke up. Michael, I use your heart valves in pediatric surgery. Children are alive today because of your innovations. Then my life has meaning. Victoria took a shaky breath. Michael, how do we move forward from this? How do we rebuild trust? You treat people with respect, all people. The woman who cleans your office, the man who fixes your elevator, the teenager who serves your coffee. You judge character, not clothes. You value contribution, not credentials. Emma nodded earnestly. What can we do to make amends? Nothing. You can't make amends for something like this, but you can learn from it. Tyler was looking at me with new eyes. Dad, what happens now? With us, I mean. That depends. Are you going to continue being ashamed of who you come from, or are you going to start being proud of what we stand for? Proud. Definitely proud. And Emma, are you sure you want to marry into a family of working-class billionaires who believe in honest labor? Emma laughed through her tears. I'd be honored to marry into your family, Mr. Patterson. I looked around the room one more time, at the medical professionals who'd witnessed everything, at the wedding planner who was probably going to have stories to tell for years, at Charles and Victoria Richardson, still processing the magnitude of their mistake. There's one more thing you should know, I said. Victoria looked terrified. What? The Patterson Medical Relief Foundation has helped 847 families avoid medical bankruptcy. Starting Monday, it will be 846. Charles went pale. You're cutting us off? I'm removing your family from our assistance list, not out of spite, but because people who judge others as beneath their station clearly don't understand the value of charity. But what if we need help in the future? Victoria asked. Then you'll figure it out the way everyone else does. Insurance, savings, payment plans, the same options available to the people like me you think are ruining health care. Tyler looked stricken. Dad, isn't that a little harsh? Tyler, I've given this family nearly $1 million. They used that gift to justify looking down on the giver. What lesson does that teach? Emma stepped forward. Mr. Patterson, what if we volunteered? What if we worked with your foundation to help other families? I studied her face. You'd do that. Grandma Maggie would want us to help other families the way you helped ours. She'd be ashamed of how we treated you tonight. That, I said, is the first thing anyone said tonight that would make your grandmother proud. Word spread through Rochester's medical community like wildfire. By Monday morning, everyone at St. Mary's Hospital knew that the maintenance worker in building services was actually the billionaire inventor whose technology they used every day. The story had grown in the telling. Some versions had me buying the entire hospital. Others had me secretly funding half the medical research in Minnesota. The truth was simpler and more complicated than the rumors. I went to work Monday morning in my Navy coveralls, carrying my toolbox, driving my dented Ford. Same routine, same job, same mission, but everything had changed. Dr. Stevens found me replacing air filters in the cardiac wing around 10 a.m. Michael, he said, I wanted to apologize for Friday night. I should have spoken up when Victoria was attacking you. You didn't know who I was. That's exactly the point. I should have defended you regardless of who you were. Maintenance work is honest work, essential work. I was wrong to let someone attack you for it. He wasn't the only one. Throughout the morning, doctors, nurses, and administrators stopped by to talk. Some apologized for past interactions where they'd treated me as invisible. Others wanted to thank me for technologies they'd been using for years. Most just wanted to understand how someone with my wealth ended up mopping floors. It keeps me grounded, I explained to Dr. Walsh during lunch. When you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, it's easy to lose touch with reality. Working with my hands, solving problems, helping people directly, it reminds me what really matters. The biggest change was Tyler. He arrived at the hospital around noon looking for me. When he found me fixing a broken elevator, he didn't apologize for being seen with the maintenance worker. He didn't make excuses about important meetings or social obligations. Dad, he said, I talked to Emma this morning. We want to postpone the wedding. My heart sank. Son, don't let my mistakes, not because of what happened, because we want to do it right. We want a wedding that represents who we really are, not who we think we should be. What does that mean? It means a smaller ceremony. It means your friends from the hospital are invited. It means Emma's grandmother's memory is honored properly. It means we stop pretending to be people we're not. Emma appeared around the corner, still in her medical scrubs from morning rounds. Mr. Patterson, she said, I wanted to ask you something. What's that? Would you walk me down the aisle? My father should do it, but after Friday night, I think Grandma Maggie would want the man who gave her those final 8 months to give me away. I felt my throat tighten. Emma, that's your father's place. My father earned his place by raising me. You earned yours by saving the woman who taught me how to love. Tyler nodded. Dad, we want both you and Charles to walk her down the aisle. Together. What does Charles think about that? Emma smiled. He says he'd be honored to share the duty with the man who gave our family the gift of time. By Thursday, the social consequences were becoming clear. Victoria had been quietly asked to step down from 2 charity boards. Not because of scandal, but because her comments about people like him had been witnessed by too many people who worked with maintenance staff, cleaning crews, and service workers every day. Charles faced an ethics review at his medical practice. Not formal discipline, but a conversation about how his public comments reflected on the medical profession's commitment to treating all people with dignity. The wedding venue had called to discuss adjusting the guest list after word spread about what had happened at the planning meeting. Turned out that several vendors didn't want to work events where service workers were openly disrespected, but the most significant change was in Tyler. Friday afternoon, he stopped by my workstation wearing hospital scrubs. Dad, I applied for the transfer. Where to? Patient advocacy,
helping families navigate medical billing, insurance disputes, treatment options. It's a pay cut, but it's work that matters. What made you decide that? I realized I've been trying to climb a ladder I don't even like. I want to help people the way you help people, just more officially. Tyler, make sure you're doing this for the right reasons. I am. I want to be the kind of man who stands up for his father, who stands up for what's right, who measures success by contribution, not connections. That evening, Emma called me at home. Michael, I have news. The foundation called today. They want me to join their medical advisory board. That's wonderful. They said they need doctors who understand that medicine is about people, not prestige. People who've been humbled enough to be useful. I smiled. That sounds like something your grandmother would have said. That's exactly what she would have said.
She always told me that privilege was a responsibility, not a right. I forgot that lesson for a while. We all forget important lessons sometimes. The key is remembering them again. 6 months later, I walked Emma Richardson down the aisle alongside her father. The wedding was smaller than originally planned, but more meaningful. The guest list included hospital maintenance staff, foundation volunteers, and families who'd been helped by anonymous donations. The flowers came from the hospital garden where Maggie Richardson used to sit during her treatments. Instead of an $85,000 reception, Emma and Tyler chose a community center dinner that cost $8,000. They donated the difference to the Patterson Medical Relief Foundation. Tyler's transformation was complete. He'd found his calling in patient advocacy, helping families navigate the same medical system that had once overwhelmed the Richardsons.
He was good at it, passionate about it, and genuinely happy. Emma joined the foundation's medical board and convinced 3 other young doctors to volunteer their time reviewing cases. She said she wanted to honor her grandmother's memory by helping other families avoid choosing between love and money. Charles and Victoria? They learned. Slowly. Painfully, but genuinely. Victoria now volunteers at a free clinic, working alongside nurses, administrators, and maintenance staff she once would have overlooked. Charles has funded 3 scholarships for first-generation medical students. They still live in their expensive house, still move in wealthy social circles, but they've stopped judging people by their job titles or bank accounts. As for me, I still work maintenance at St. Mary's Hospital, still drive my dented Ford, still live in my modest house. The difference is that now my family is proud of what I do instead of ashamed of it. The foundation has helped over 1,000 families now. The technology patents continue generating money that gets donated immediately. The quiet work of fixing broken things, mechanical and human, continues. People ask me if I regret revealing my identity, if I miss the anonymity of truly secret giving. The answer is no. Sometimes the most important lesson isn't about giving quietly, it's about receiving loudly. Sometimes people need to learn that the hands that serve them might be the same hands that save them. Sometimes respect isn't given, sometimes it has to be earned, and sometimes, just sometimes, the maintenance worker mopping your floors might be the billionaire who paid for the building. If you're watching this, I hope you'll remember that the next time you interact with someone whose job seems beneath you, because you never know who you're really talking to, and you never know who might be quietly keeping your world running.